I do want to get on to speak about your book, Prey. In Prey, the premise is that the fifth wave of immigration occurred where 3.5 million people, immigrants and asylum seekers, crossed into the European Union, 3/4 occurring in 2015 after events like the Syrian civil war. The premise of your book seems to be that these were predominantly young men. They came from Muslim dominant in terms of the culture of the countries. And this led to an increase in sexual assaults against women, a change in certain communities and neighbourhoods, and a kind of erosion of women's rights. I suppose I want to sort of just briefly talk about the compelling evidence that shows that the cultural beliefs of Islam were really important in these types of offences.
And so I think that when I was writing the book and working on, is there an increase in sexual violence against women? Is it possible to link this, correlate it with the increase in immigration and the influx of young unaccompanied men? And what parts, if Islam is relevant at all, then in what way is it relevant? And so some of these questions obviously are very difficult to answer without solid data. And I describe in the book that exercise of data gathering, again, was frustrated by the way the European leaders fear that the immigration issue is going to be exploited by populist and far-right parties. And so a lot of that data, if it exists, is hidden. And very often it is also overlaid with data that says there is no link. There's no correlation to be seen here. And in fact, if you are asking these questions, imagine you're a white man, then you are accused of harboring anti-immigrant feelings and sentiment. Now, the Islam thing, it comes into it. In the first question that you asked me, you see this separation between, let's just call it tribal Islam and the sort of more puritanical Wahhabi, Salafi type of Muslim Brotherhood Islam. Now, with both, there is this code of conduct for men and women and how they relate to one another. And women are regarded either as good or bad. And there's a very clear framework of behavior that a good woman, she's supposed to have a male guardian, obey her male guardian, stay at home, and remain a virgin until her wedding day. And when married with her husband, still continue to practice these. Western feminists would call it submissive.
Doctrines of modesty.
The doctrines of modesty, exactly that. Whereas the good women are those who breach that, whether they do it knowingly or unknowingly. And so with that in place, the men, when they do engage in sexual misconduct, the first question that is posed, unlike the West, is not the man, he's the perpetrator and he ought to be punished for that. The first question that arises is, did she break this modesty doctrine or not? Where was she? What was she wearing? What was the context like? And that context almost always favors men. If it is the puritanical Islam and this was to go to a court of law, then she would have to produce 4 witnesses and so on. She would have to explain why she was outside and not with her male guardian and other chaperones and so on. And so that's then the formal or the formalized Sharia law. The informal tribal one is one where, and again, I try to describe this in the book, where the clan protects its women, the ones that are regarded as modest and decent, and anyone who breaches that, then the clan will take revenge. That is, again, an informal thing. But again, the burden of proof still lies on her. And so when men shaped by that and with those attitudes come to Europe, which is a radically different context. And they see European women, white European women, as women who live outside of the modesty doctrine, who are immodest and therefore bad. And I spoke to one Egyptian man, Hamid Abu Samid, and asked him to explain to me how their attitudes towards European women developed. And he said there were 3 key points. One was women are seen in the movies from Hollywood. So that's one image of white women that they have. And the other is the porn industry. And the third, interestingly, is that there are a lot of women who volunteer in refugee camps and refugee compounds looking for boyfriends. So their prejudice, if you wish, is that it's justified to attack these women because they're actually looking for it. And so they have no respect for women in general, which is ingrained. And the only type of woman they respect is the one that they can't reach, the one who's covered up and protected by her clanmates and is locked up. And all other women are fair game. And that's, where the book title Prey came from.